This is a revision guide for Jesus' baptism. I'm just going to go through all the possible questions that may come up within this topic. Firstly, looking at the question, describe the events of Jesus' baptism. Now remember, this is given about a 4 to 5 point summary. Firstly, discussing how Jesus' baptism is actually recorded in all 4 Gospels. Then focusing on Jesus being baptised by his cousin John, and looking at the age in which Jesus was baptised, age 30. This was important within the baptism because it actually confirmed what the Old Testament had previously said, that a messenger would be sent before the Messiah, and this confirmed John to be that person. Then we move on to looking at the location of the baptism, the River Jordan. And finally, discussing how the Trinity appeared for the first time. You can refer here to the dove as the symbol of the Holy Spirit, but also those looking to add in a star quality, you can use the quotation of God speaking as a father figure, where he confirms that Jesus is his son. You are my own dear son with whom I am pleased. Moving on, you may also be asked to explain why Jesus' baptism is actually important. Firstly, it's the appearance of the Trinity, and it's the first time this happens where all 3 of the Trinity are together. This obviously makes Jesus' baptism a very important event, because this is when God chose to reveal himself to us in that way. We then look at the fact that Jesus was born through the virgin birth and did not contain original sin. Baptism is an event that washes away that original sin. So therefore, Jesus actually didn't need to be baptised. He was also a member of God's family and therefore didn't need to be baptised to be initiated into the faith. However, he chose to do it to be a role model, to give an example for each of us to follow. Another question you may be asked is to look at the alternative side, to actually look at reasons why Jesus' baptism may not be important. You can discuss the fact that Jesus was already part of God's family. Jesus is the Son of God and therefore did not need to be initiated into God's family. Therefore, maybe his baptism was unnecessary. You can also discuss the fact that Jesus was born without original sin due to his virgin birth, and therefore did not need to be baptised to wash that sin away. You may also be asked to look at baptism in the context of today, and look at how Catholics today celebrate baptism, or what actually happens in a baptism. This question could come up as an explain how, or as a describe, but the context of what you need to include in your answer is very similar. You need to start off by discussing the door. In a describe question, just stating what happens at the door would be enough, with the priest welcoming the godparents, the child, the baby, and also the parents. However, to change it into an explain how answer, you need to discuss the importance of that, where the priest is actually symbolically representing the welcome into the church, into the faith. Then we move on to the lectern, where the priest will read from the Bible. The words of the Bible, containing God's words, are guiding the Christian, the new baby, into the Catholic faith and will show them the way forward within the religion. At this point, catechumens are used, an oil, and is put onto the chest. This protects the baby and guides them throughout their life and gives them qualities of healing. The next stage is the movement to the font. At this point, this is when the actual baptism happens. The priest will use water to symbolically wash away the sins of the baby, the original sin. Also, we then have a white paschal candle. This represents that Jesus is with the child throughout their life and is always there guiding them. We also, at this point, it is quite easy to overlook, and many people do in the answer, that there are a series of promises that need to be made. That is the whole point of the baptism. It is at this point where the godparents will make the promises on behalf of the baby. Moving on finally to the altar, this is where a blessing happens, where the child then has the strength to go on throughout their life. Also, the godparents are blessed in order to continue their guidance for the child throughout the child's life. You may also be asked to explain the importance of baptism today. This is similar to when you look at why Jesus' baptism was actually important. It welcomes you into God's family. It's your first sacrament of initiation. This is your starting off point within the church community, but also an introduction into God's family. It is necessary to have baptism to actually receive any of the other sacraments throughout the rest of your life. Also, unfortunately, we are not conceived through the virgin birth, and we are born with the concept of original sin. For Catholics today, they need to receive baptism in order to have their original sin washed away. Finally, we come to our evaluation or opinion style questions where you may be asked, infant or adult baptism, should a baby be baptised as a child or should they wait until they're an adult? The red line we're using here is to signify agrees and disagrees. In agreement to why we should be baptised as a baby, again, same points being repeated, being welcomed into God's family. It's the first sacrament of initiation, you're being welcomed into the church. This is best as a child so that you can go on throughout your life, growing up as an adult, receiving further sacraments which you may need for reconciliation. A second point, initiation, but also the removal of original sin. Many would argue that this is best as a baby to start a fresh life, a clean life, where you have a good relationship with God and can then lead a good Catholic life avoiding sin. On the other hand though, you must look at the other side of the argument and you must propose other alternative ideas. Some people would say that we should wait to be baptised and we should maybe be baptised as a teenager or as an adult. And actually, this is because you're making those promises for yourself. If you make promises for yourself, we all know if I made a promise for myself, I'm more likely to keep it rather than someone making a promise on my behalf that potentially as a baby I'm not actually even aware of. Following on from that, very similar point again. When you are making promises for yourself, you are more likely to keep them. On the other hand, when someone has made a promise for you on your behalf, you've been brought up within a religious tradition and you're feeling potentially that might have been forced on you. As you get older, you develop your own ideas, your own opinions. In school, you learn about things like science that may actually force you to not believe in God. This may cause someone to rebel from the faith. Having too much of the faith from such a young age may cause someone to rebel and may actually cause them to turn their back on the faith. The next topic that will be looked at in the next video is Jesus' temptations.